Have you ever wondered pharmacology is such a vast science of drugs, and how is it possible to study this vast science of drugs if it doesn't have any classification, if it doesn't have any types, subtypes, if it's not divided in specific branches? Well, query of this particular point and much more will be covered in today's episode. So let's get started. Welcome all to IS Pharmacology Difficult Podcast. I'm your host Dr. Radhika Vijay, MBBS MD Pharmacology, and this is the audio hub to get the best simplified basic tips, strategies, methods, and lots of ideas to learn better, understand better, and make your concept crystal clear if you really find and if there's a question hovering in your mind. Is pharmacology difficult? So lend me your ears for a while and let in the magic of knowledge. Now, pharmacology is described as a branch in science of drugs. It has all in all. I'm talking about in broadest terms. All in all, the two most important basic divisions. There are many, but we are talking in the broadest sense. The two most important basic divisions, or you can say two important heads or branches, and they sound quite similar, though they are very different. Well, that's not a riddle. I'm going to tell you the solution of this riddle also. The name of the branches are Pharmacodynamics and Pharmacokinetics. Now, to start with, let me tell you a super brief and one-line statement description for these two branches. Well, pharmacodynamics is what the drug does to the body. What the drug does to the body is pharmacodynamics. Second one is pharmacokinetics, what the body does to the drug. So I told you they sound so similar and they are so different. The meaning has totally changed. But tell me, does that make a complete sense to you all? Well, no. If you are a very beginner in this subject, I'm sure it doesn't mean anything to you, these one-line descriptions. Because you have just known what is a drug and what is the definition of all these things. So, let us expand these statements. First of all, talking about the pharmacodynamics. Now, pharmacodynamics, again, how do we derive this term? Dynamis, D-Y-N-A-M-I-S, is a Greek word meaning power. So, let me tell you in points, what does it cover? First of all, physiological or biochemical effects of drugs. And to be more specific, actually it's a quantitative study of biological and therapeutic effects of drug. That is the first point. Secondly, it encompasses not only the mechanism of action, but it also tells about the site of the drug action. What is the site? Where it is acting? Is it acting at an organ level or subcellular level or a macromolecular level? Then it gives an idea of how plasma concentration of a drug and the responses of drug, they are interrelated. It tells about the duration of action of the drugs. That is the third point. Next point, I want to add on value to all these 3 points by exemplifying these all points with beautiful examples. Let me tell you 2 of them. That will make a lot of picture clear and a good idea of what is pharmacodynamics all about. Well, curare, that is a drug, and in common language it is called as arrow poison because it is used by the tribal people. It belongs to the group of non-depolarizing blockers, and its effect is that it produces muscle weakness in no time. Very quickly it does that. And finally, the ultimate outcome or result is the skeletal muscle paralysis. So this is the whole pharmacodynamic description of curare. Now, let us go in a detailed example one more. Adrenaline is one of the adrenergic drugs, the prototype adrenergic drugs. It binds to adrenergic receptors, and the mechanism is that G protein mediated stimulation occurs of adenylyl cyclase. It leads to the increased concentration of cyclic AMP, and then a series of reaction occurs. Finally, what is the result or outcome? Cardiac stimulation, hyperglycemia, etc. So both of these, curare and adrenaline, what I gave you just now was the pharmacodynamic description. It is covering all the 3 points that I just told you about pharmacodynamics. Okay, that was more than enough about pharmacodynamics. I'm sure you are able to write, describe, and explain also what is pharmacodynamics. Talking about pharmacokinetics, well, where does it get its name from? Kinesis in Greek means movement. See how different it is from the last description and branch. In a very short and famous way, we call it as ADME. Capital A, capital D, capital M, and capital E. All have their specific meanings and descriptions. So you can just note it down nicely. It is the ADME study. A stands for absorption, D stands for distribution, M stands for metabolism, and capital E stands for excretion. Now, why it is called ADME study? Because it tells about the whole drug movement within the human body. And it also covers in detail how the drug is changing, what is happening to the drug in the human body. It covers the description about the binding, the localization, the storage, biotransformation of a drug in much details. And this whole room of discussion, it needs to be brightened up with wonderful apt examples that I'm going to give you just now. Well, let me give you 2 again for pharmacokinetics. Okay? The first one I want to talk about is a drug called Chloropromazine. Now, it is an antipsychotic drug and it binds with the tissue proteins. It is metabolized in liver. It is excreted in around 15 to 30 hours. Its absorption, it is hastened by the parenteral route as compared to the oral route. Now, how I described it just now, and whatever information I gave you is pharmacokinetic description. You note the difference of how you are pharmacodynamically describing a drug and how you are pharmacokinetically describing a drug. The points of description, they change. Did you get the idea, the whole concept? Then I want to give you one more specific and detailed example about this. Well, that is about the drug paracetamol. It is rapidly absorbed. It reaches at the peak concentration in the blood in around 30 to 60 minutes. Then 25% of paracetamol is plasma protein bound, and it has a very uniform volume of distribution, which is around 1 liter per kg. So it is metabolized by the processes of glucuronide conjugation, and its plasma half-life. What are you get to know about all these things in detail? Just listen to me nicely for the time being. Don't get confused and don't overthink. The plasma T-half is 2 to 3 hours and it is finally excreted in the urine. Well, I think now you are clear with the basic and important branches of pharmacology. How can you describe a drug when you are describing the pharmacodynamics of a drug? And how will you describe a drug when you are actually describing the pharmacokinetics of the drug? So these were the important things that you ought to know before you dive deeper in the subject, because these are the building blocks of this particular subject. Until you don't get to know how you're going to approach in the subject, you will definitely never get to know the details when they are discussed. And you know what? Once I'm discussing the details here, definitely I won't be repeating it in the upcoming episodes. Then I take it for granted that you know what is pharmacodynamics and you know what is pharmacokinetics. Okay, one bonus discussion point I'm gonna discuss with you, which is very interesting. It's the relation between the pharmaceutics, pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics, and pharmacotherapeutics. Yes, all are related. And I will tell you and I will prove it just now. So listen carefully. You know, listening is an art. I'm sure since you are a listener, you have this capability and this art in you. Let's start off with the pharmacoceutics. Now, pharmacoceutics, it refers to the disintegration of drug bioavailability. And it finally leads to a concept where we need to know the dosage of the drug. And when it leads to a point, there's a need to know the dosage of a drug, we are entering into pharmacokinetics. That is the ADME study I just told you. It tells about the drug concentration in the plasma. And now since we have entered the plasma concentration of the drug, now we are entering into the field of pharmacodynamics. It tells about the drug receptor interaction. It gives an idea of the concentration of drug at the site of action. And now since we have come till the site of action of the drug, we have entered into pharmacotherapeutics. And finally, we need the science of pharmacotherapeutics, which actually defines the drug effect or the drug response. See how beautifully we started with the pharmacoceutics, then pharmacokinetics, then pharmacodynamics, and we ended on pharmacotherapeutics. And definitely this chain is unbreakable. You cannot disintegrate these four aspects. Okay, now you're thinking about few more vague terms, branches, which you might have heard because you are a science student and you are in all these fields. So don't worry, I'm gonna tell you most of the heard and the important ones in the upcoming episodes. I'll try to pick up and highlight some of the important shells of this vast sea, and let's discuss the pearls of knowledge which we find in these shells. But that all in the next episode. For all the updates and the latest episodes of my podcast, please visit www.ispharmacologydifficult.com, where you can also sign up for the free monthly newsletter of mine. It actually contains a lot of updates about the medical sciences, drug information, and my podcast updates also. You can follow me on different social media handles like Twitter, Insta, Facebook, and LinkedIn. They all are with same name, Is Pharmacology Difficult. If you are listening for the first time, do follow me here, whatever platform you are consuming this episode. Stay tuned. Do rate and review on iTunes, Apple Podcast. Stay safe, stay happy, stay enlightened. Thank you.